WNBA players are now whining and complaining and crying and talk about pay us what you owe us. Let me say that again for the people in the back. They're whining, they're complaining, and they're saying, pay us what you owe us. So I'm going to share this and show you how they pulled up to All-Star Weekend now. First things first, I didn't even know that WNBA players had All-Star Weekend this weekend. Bro, I seen them women because I did the article on Pay Us What You Owe Us. And I seen them chicks and they was shooting, I guess they had bonus shots on the court trying to mimic the men or whatever. And dog, Angel Reese shot at least 2 or 3 air balls. Angel Reese shot at least 2 or 3 air balls. Let me see if I can find that. Give me a second. Oh, man. Let me see if I can find it. This is horrible, bro. This is horrible. If y'all ain't seen these, this is crazy. I'm about to share this with you real quick.
Here's Angel Reese firing away. Off to Reese. Angel Reese has been on a tear of late. With the Mercury, Nate Tibbetts, their head coach, their system.
That's horrible.
With shooting. And
this is so bad, bro.
They haven't even been fully healthy yet, and they've had 1 or 3. Here's
she missed the entire rim on some of these shots, bro. It was bad. It was really, really bad. It was really bad. So listen, let me say this. Well, before I say it, let me show y'all exactly what they let me show y'all what they were saying and what was going on, and then we'll have the conversation. This is how they came out.
We've all been covering it for nearly 2 decades, but something important happened before the game. As you know, the collective bargaining agreement is under discussion right now between the league and their players. And before the game, the players came out without their warm-ups on with shirts that said, pay us what you owe us. There is a feeling among the players, as they expressed in their meeting on Thursday, that they want to have a piece of the revenue. It has been record-sharing revenue.
So that's how they came out, all right? They came out with the shirts that said, pay us what you owe us. Here's more of what they had to say, and I'll share this with you guys. Here's more. Let me see this. Here's more of what they had to say.
We feel like we are owed a piece of that pie that we helped to create. So that's basically what that is.
Nafisa, next question to your right in the front row.
Nafisa, Nick Hamilton, Nightcast Media. Speaking about the statement that you all collectively made and having the fan support, what do you want the other fans that may not fully understand what you're fighting for? What is the message that you want to convey over for the rest of the season? And are those shirts that you guys will be wearing, for the remainder of the season as well?
I guess I would want people to understand that basically we get a very tiny percentage of all the money that's made through the WNBA, which obviously is through our entertainment, the entertainment we provide. And so we want a fair and reasonable percentage of that.
All right. Nixon says, Big Dog Anton, I agree with the WNBA on this one, the pay issue. Okay, well, let's talk about it. So I did a little bit of research before I did my video yesterday where I was breaking this down. And here's the thing. We used to have a WNBA team. We are now getting another WNBA team coming to Detroit, Cleveland. As a matter of fact, our WNBA team was one of the best. We won 3 championships. And that was under owner Bill Davison before he died. And then they wound up selling the franchise over to Tom Gores at Platinum Equity. And then they moved the Pistons down to downtown Detroit from Auburn Hills, right? And so it was pretty good. Here's the thing, though. We wound up getting rid of our franchise. The reason why we wound up getting rid of our franchise, and the team, I believe, only has 13 teams. So let's do a little research, right? How many WNBA teams? There are 13 WNBA teams, all right? Currently, there are 13 WNBA teams compared to how many NBA teams? Compared to 30 NBA teams. And I heard that the NBA is actually trying to expand over to Vegas and Nashville and a bunch of other places, right? Here's the key. The WNBA lost a projected $40 million last year. This is a slight improvement from an earlier projection of $50 million in losses. So for the last fiscal year, they actually lost more than they on average would lose in the WNBA. On average, the teams Has the WNBA ever been profitable? No, it has been consistently operating at a loss since its inception in 1997. The league has been subsidized by the NBA. On average, I believe they lose about $10 million a year. In 2024, they lost 50. On average, they lose about $10 million a year, and they had one of their biggest losses last year. So now, Nixon, here's my question for you, okay? Here's my question for you. Because the NBA is profitable. Since 1997, which is, let's see, 2017. So they're a little over 25 years. They're between 25 and 30 years in their existence. All right. Let me ask you a question. What business do you know that can exist for more than 25 years and not be profitable and still be a business? I'm just asking a basic economic question. What business do you know? Because this is essentially money laundering at this point. Any business that loses for almost 30 years is a money laundering operation if it's still being promoted. Honest to God. It's a money laundering operation. As a whole business, it would have to be a money laundering operation. But because we love women so much, we love women. We love diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we love women. We subsidize it. And so basically, they're taking the NBA and they're taking whatever money is made from the NBA and they're giving it to the WNBA, and they making sure that they allow for them to be able to exist, because we have to have women if we're going to have men. Otherwise, society is going to get mad. Now, you finally got you with Caitlin Clark. And I don't believe that Caitlin Clark is even on board with this, because most of the women that's the real ball, like the women that's really getting to it, the Caitlin Clarks, even the Angel Reeses, they got deals that's outside of it that don't even matter about what it is that they're making in the WNBA. So, but at the same time, she can't separate herself and then say, well, I don't believe in what's going on in the WNBA. I'm not going to continue to have a conversation. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to have it. Because she can't get away from her sisters. And so now she got to basically continue to play ball. She got to play ball. But she make all of her money outside of the WNBA. And so she's not tripping about it. And so the WNBA is just a showcase for her to continue to showcase her talent so that she can get bags elsewhere. But again, I ask you the question, Nixon, how do you justify paying somebody what they owe? Because if you say pay you what you owe, like they showing right here, then that means that I need to give you a pay cut. I need to give you a pay cut because you can't make what you think you make if the league is completely unprofitable. If I paid you what you owed, just basic economics, then that means that everybody got to take a pay cut so that we can make the league profitable, right? Or we got to make an adjustment. We got to make an adjustment. So when I see this, it's interesting to me because it shows me that women don't have the same interests. They don't look at everything economically. I believe that most of these women are Neanderthals, just like men. No, trust me, I'm not ragging on women just because they're women. I'm ragging on them because I believe that they're just like men in their delusion. A lot of these sports players are not smart. That's why most of them, despite making millions, tens of millions of dollars, they are broke within 5 years of retiring because that doesn't mean that they're smart just because they can put the ball in a hoop or they can run through a offensive line. It doesn't make them smart. I believe that most of these women are Neanderthals. And so when they say and pay us what you owe, of course, listen, I'm not hating on them. Get your money. Get your money. Get your money. Nixon says a lot of WNBA players have to play pro ball overseas for extra income. Nigga, so what? You got to go and get another job in order to be able to pay your daughter's tuition? Listen, bro, this is entertainment. What we talking about? This is entertainment. We're not talking about people that are firefighters and police officers and stuff. In the entertainment world, you get what you put out. Every comedian ain't gonna be rich. Every person that starred in a movie ain't gonna wind up getting a $20 million flick. In entertainment, the same as content creation, you get paid what you're worth. You get paid based off of whether or not you're selling tickets or bringing in revenue. If you're an artist, just because you've been in a game for a long time or just because you got to go and get a second job don't mean that you're supposed to get paid more just because you're a rapper or you're a singer. You're going to have to sell some records. And entertainment is different. The reason why entertainers or content creators or basketball, whatever you want to talk about, the reason why they make the big bucks is because they bring in the big dollars. They bring in people that are interested in seeing you. And so as you generate more revenue, and you're more profitable, you'll get a bigger piece of the pie. They got to go overseas for extra income. So what? Former NBA players got to go overseas in order to make extra income. D1 players that never made it to the league got to go overseas to make an extra income, or they can come home and they can be just like Love and Basketball lady, Sanaa Lathan on Love and Basketball. You better get you a job at a bank. You better go get you a job at a bank. You better go do something. Don't listen. Nobody owes anybody anything. I don't know where y'all getting this from. Nobody owes anybody anything. Nobody. And so again, I'm not hating on them because if they can finesse the league into giving them more money, then more power to them. But if I am an owner, you can forget it, big dog. You can forget it. Most of the NBA players in the 70s and the 80s, when the league was just starting to figure itself out before the Magic and Bird era, they had jobs in the offseason. They was plumbers. They were line workers. Some of them worked at Ford Motor Company. Some of them was, they had delivery jobs. I read about one NBA player in the offseason. He was a delivery guy for the post office. They went and they had extra jobs. That's why people be criticizing the older players and saying, man, y'all played against plumbers. They're saying it figuratively, but it was really a thing. They had to go get a second job until the league started generating more money. And then once the Magic and Bird era came through, Magic Johnson was the first, as late as that was, as long as the NBA had been in existence, Magic Johnson was the first $1 million player. Magic Johnson was the first $1 million a year player, the very, very first one. And so some people had to lay the foundation so that the people after him can go ahead and get a big bag. Some people had to lay the foundation so some people after him can go and get the big bag. Stop asking for money that you're not generating. If I do a podcast, right? Let's break it down from a C-student's perspective. How much do y'all think that podcasters should make? How much do y'all think that panel members on podcasts should make? Let's have a real conversation. How much do y'all think that panel members on podcasts should make? They jump on, they talk, and then they get off, and that's it. Not the ones that make the clips, not the ones that own the platforms, not the person that do the backhand, not the person that do the recruiting, not the person that try to figure out and produce the show. For a person that comes on a podcast and talks for three hours, 3 days a week, how much do y'all think that they should make? Some people said $150 a show. Some people say 15 to 25K. Whatever. It's numbers all over the board, right? What if the podcast don't make no money? What if y'all just getting started with the podcast? Somebody say $500, $200 per show. But wait. What if the podcast is not making money? What if y'all just building it? What if you just getting started? What if the revenue is not a reflection of what people are advocating for people to get paid? How do you justify paying somebody something that is not generating enough revenue? Oh, okay. So y'all saying depends on the profits. Interesting. Depends on the profits. Oh, so you saying that they should get a percentage of the profits? What if the league itself or the podcast itself is not generating money or is operating in the negative? How much should they get paid then? Because now we're talking about WNBA contracts, right? Got to keep working until it's profitable. How do you know what to pay people until it's profitable? Because if it depends on the profits, then that would mean that you would get nothing if you are not profitable, right? Or you can pay somebody a flat fee and then you take all of the risk as the owner of the platform. And then you basically, if you're not profitable, you still got to pay them their money though, right? See, I'm trying to get y'all to forget that doesn't really matter about the contracts, all right? I'm using this as an example to illustrate to you guys. I want y'all to start thinking more like business owners. I want you to think, because y'all, most of us, we think like employees. And that's why we don't make a lot of money. Most of us think like employees. That's why we don't make a lot. When you go into a job, you're looking to see how much money you can get. You don't get what you need as far as the base salary and then to negotiate the rest of it when it comes to equity. That's why CEOs make an egregious amount of money, because they tie the performance of the company. If the company is not doing well, the Amazon CEO, he made $0 1 year. I think 2022 or 2023, nobody complained about it. Hold on. Amazon CEO. Andy Jasper, I think that's what his name. His compensation plunged, right? 1 year he made 212. The next year he only made $103 million in 2023. Why? Because his compensation was tied to the performance of the company. 1 year because he was a CEO of Amazon Web Services, Jeff Bezos promoted him. The next year when he was running Amazon as a whole, the company, his compensation was tied directly to the performance of the company, and he only made $1.3 million. Now, let's not be confused. He still made a lot of money and he's still balling. But my point is his performance and his pay was tied to the performance of the company. And nobody said, you know what, but Apple CEO made 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 million. You only making 1.3 million. No, he had to get paid based off of the performance of the company. And so again, I ask you guys, especially when it comes to these WNBA players, how do you justify paying them when the league has never been profitable and has been less profitable last year than the years before it? less profitable last year than the years before. How do you listen? People start panels, podcasts all the time. They don't make no money. And it's funny because some people will be doing it for free just because they like being on the panels, or they like doing this, or they like doing that, right? But then people are automatically saying, well, if you're a panelist, you should make this amount of money. Based off of what? Based off of what? How can you justify it? I look at Rory and Maul, right? I don't think even for a little bit that Rory and Maul's podcast, because one of the things that they, and again, I don't know the details of everything. One of the things that they criticized Joe for was that they was acting like Joe's podcast was it would only exist as a result, or it would only continue based off of the way that they contributed into it, and it would fail and it would fall. And I remember I did a review video and I'm like, man, Joe is gonna be fine. Joe is gonna figure it out. Joe can replace them, and he gonna probably do better than he was when he had him. Joe killing the game. And that's not to say Rory and Maul is not doing okay. I'm sure that their podcast is doing just well. But when you become an owner, it becomes different because you have costs. You got to continue to invest in equipment. You got to pay people. You got to pay co-hosts. You got to pay camera people. You got to pay producers. You got to, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot that goes into a lot of that stuff. When y'all think like an owner, I want you to think differently. In that way, you'll better understand exactly how to make a business decision. When I see people that just jump up there and they say, no, they should make more money based off of what? You don't have no data. You don't have no analytics. You don't have no real idea of how that is. Sometimes there have been companies, podcasts, videos, whatever, where it wasn't even profitable, and I was paying people out of my pocket, and I was in a hole dealing with that particular business venture or that particular podcast, or it wasn't yet profitable, but I was giving all of the profits over to, or I was giving all of the money that was even coming in, even though it wasn't profitable, I was still distributing it amongst the crew. Nobody asked me how I was doing. Nobody came to me and said, hey man, are you profitable? Or what do you need from me? Or do I need to take a pay cut? Don't nobody do that. Nobody does that. For years, I took hardly nothing because I was able to do it because I was generating so much revenue and other things that I had going on. But for years, I would take nothing just to make sure that everybody else was getting paid. Come to find out that money was funny still, but that's a whole nother conversation. But you know, when I take care of people, when I do stuff, I pay myself last. I pay myself last. So I heard y'all saying rest in peace, Malcolm and Jamal Warner. I'll have to do a whole separate video on that. But yeah, man, people don't know. They don't know how to run stuff. They don't know nothing about no business. They just be begging. Pay me what you owe. Okay, so I'm going to pay you nothing. Well, that means you owe me money. How about that?